Right, so what can I do for you?
So, for our MAs, we've been...
MAs, God, look at you two.
I know, well, don't be impressed just yet.
Still got to pass it.
Yeah, it's not looking good. We've got to do... What are we doing? It's enterprise module, apparently.
Right.
It's not very enterprising. It's nothing like what we did here.
Okay.
But we're working with Orange Box, who did these pods, didn't they?
Yes, they did.
So the brief is... I don't even really know what the
We
brief
have
is,
to
but-
design a workspace, basically.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, we had a choice between a workspace,
an environment,
hotel, train station or airport, so we chose workspace. And it's the theme is biophilic design, so all of the
Nature living.
bringing the outside indoors and how it can benefit you and all of that.
It doesn't have to necessarily be trees inside or that extent. It could just be eco furniture and things that are well made out.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Right.
So we thought we'd do this space, not just the pod, the whole area, and design with this in mind.
The Doyek?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Just because we felt that it was or me, and I don't know about you.
Yeah, me too.
I found it difficult to be creative in here because the way it's set up, and, or even just have a space to make a mess.
I'm with you. Do you know what? If you're doing this could be really helpful to us, because one of the things we would love to be able to do is to have a messy area to make it feel less corporate.
Yeah.
So actually, if you've got ideas around that would be fantastic to have the output.
Well, yeah, everything that we can come up with, we'll pass on to...
Brilliant,
yeah.
brilliant.
So the plan is...
Sorry, can I just check something? So you're both doing MAs, taught MAs, taught MAs, but so you're doing an individual MA, but you're collaborating on this project.
Just this module.
I see.
So
right.
there are five. Is it 5 of us?
Yes.
5 of us altogether. It's a mix. So I'm doing graphic design. You're doing
film and photography.
Yeah.
Just so we do see, I think.
And one of the other girls is doing pattern cutting, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the other two are
International
also
fashion as well.
the other two are graphic design as well.
Okay.
So it's a group project for this module, and then we have to present whatever our ideas are to Orange Box, and they're going to pick a winner. I don't think they're actually going to. They're not. The intention isn't for them to do anything with it, but they might.
Right.
And especially if it's here and it's something it's not too far fetched. So there might be just areas that they can take from it or that you guys want to implement.
Yeah. Well, I do know that somebody we're supporting at the moment, whose name escapes me, did a project for Orange Box to do with these panels, and they did take it forward. So there is a chance that it might. Yeah.
Fab. Well, I'm just going to try and get a document up to write notes because I've been so organised and brought all of this and no pen.
Do you want, I can get you a pen. So is today just to quiz me about?
See if you're on board with the idea of us doing it.
Yes.
And support.
And I guess if there's anything you can provide us, like the floor plans or any information, I don't know whether it's still knocking around, but about how the layout was formed in the first place, where things have come from.
Okay.
What sorts of areas from the university you get students typically from?
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. So, well, there's a few things there. I'm sure I could, from the 3M BIC team, rustle up a floor plan of here. That wouldn't be a problem. Now, in terms of this room, and I don't know how much of this you can use without getting me fired, but but basically, one of the challenges of working in a big organisation is that decisions are sometimes made without consulting the people who are ultimately going to be using facilities and spaces. Mm-hmm. So the enterprise team came into this as a fully furnished room.
Yeah.
Yeah, Nicola's explained that to me.
In an ideal world, that wouldn't have been the case. Mm-hmm. Had we known that we were going to be here, we would have been involved in the consultation process of deciding what this space would look like, because we would have taken our clients' wishes and demands into consideration, obviously. Yeah. And the most obvious way of doing that would maybe to have a few people that were being supported at the time as stakeholders to sit round the table and say, well, look, okay, we've got a representative from each of the 7 schools.
Yeah.
Tell us what a space would look like for you.
Yeah.
Because a business student might say, it'll look like this. An art design and architecture would say, it doesn't look like this.
Yeah.
So that's the background. This wasn't created with what is now the end user in mind.
Yeah.
So that's, I think, is a really important point to make. And I don't mind saying that because it's just the truth. It's the way it is.
Yeah. I guess you wouldn't have known then as well what percentages of people from different courses would be coming to do the EPLI.
Well, you see, this is the thing. We went from a very tiny resource, as in space, into a very massive resource, as in space. And there was a kind of pressure and expectation that we would, now you have more than 3 desks, you will fill 48.
Yeah.
And that's not actually practically possible. Even now, 4 years on, we're still in the growing period. And we have a lot of people through here now, but it can't instantly happen.
Yeah.
So, and also our enterprise placement year has developed. We now have a sector-specific variant of it. So it's not just the generic one you were on, there's another variant. And
is that the gaming?
The gaming one. And it's quite likely that that side of things may increase. So really, this is a work in progress. We do need to consider what the implications are going forward, and we do need to consider the stakeholders.
Yeah.
In terms of the people that we get now, we get a lot of creatives, and I'll be honest, that causes a problem. A problem in that the room doesn't suit the mind.
Yeah.
I was a musician. This space would be alien to me as a musician. There were elements of what I did that I could do in here, but there'd be an awful lot I couldn't.
Yeah.
And so I'm very aware of that, and I'm aware of the problems. At the same time, our service is to add value by making the creative or whatever type of business it is aware of the business development side of it, and that it's not just about a year off to take photographs, a year off to design, a year. So it's a balancing act, really, of those two things. It's too extreme one way at the moment, for sure. If I could take everything out and start from scratch, it would look very different.
Yeah.
So I'm completely on board with you in that respect. What I think this study might be really useful for is that it might actually give us some evidence to say, let's do just that.
Yeah.
Let's take out all these pods. I mean, desk pods, and let's recreate. So I'm 100% behind what you're doing, and I'll do whatever I can to help you. But I think the starting point is that actually this wasn't created with the end user in mind.
Yeah.
So what do we do now that we're in that situation where we're starting to get a good number of very diverse users? How do we set about changing the DOIEC to be fit for purpose?
Yeah.
Because the first thing that instantly jumped to my mind when I came in would be more zones rather than hot desking, still kind of, but zones, because it's still a business. It's not a photography studio like you're saying for me. So it would be my business out of the photography, but none of the light is controlled. I can't work on my photos in here.
Of course you can't.
There's no big desk or whatever it is that you would want for your designing. Where you can just get messy. There's no open space where you can just go and throw things and put stuff up and around and see what it looks like.
Or even storage, because I think that would be a massive help.
Yes.
If it was just, even if it's just lockers or even a locked box or something, so that you can come and bring your things to a desk, not your specific desk, so it's still hot desking, and then at the end of the day you clear it away again, because that was one of my problems, was lugging everything in that
I know, and I'm with you, and we've tried to make some amendments on that, so we now are able to issue some pedestal drawers. We don't have enough for everybody, but I'm with you that maybe that could be, I like the zoning idea, because if you go to somewhere like a Google campus, for instance, the area is extremely different. It's, you've got everything from beanbags on the floor to the formal desk. The furniture itself is problematic because we can't even say, well, let's split them up into groups of 3. if you split them, they fall over because there aren't enough legs.
'Cause we're saying.
So, nothing is. Also, the room is wired incorrectly. It's wired into the floor. Actually, the most innovative spaces are wired into the ceiling, so that the things drop down and you can plug in anywhere.
Yeah.
When you've got these things in the floor, it's very difficult to be flexible.
I think we'd
That
have
would
to
be
look
good
at
to
starting
see.
from scratch. Yeah, I was
Yeah.
thinking about that. But if we were just looking at the space from scratch almost,
Yes.
we've got to acknowledge what's here and
Yes.
what is possible. But at the same time, we need something that you can push with.
Yeah.
And if we don't go far enough, then because the universities will powers up be, we'll probably, if we aim for here, they'll probably pull them back to about
Exactly.
here-ish. So
Yeah.
if we aim for there, then you need it even less.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. So you need to go to the nth degree, basically.
Yeah.
Another thing that I think you should consider is that one of the things that we did try and fight against was that there was a move to have us in the room, the staff, in the room. And that is brilliant because it enables us to have a lot of informal advice sessions when we're making a cup of tea, when you pass in to come in the morning and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But there is a need for privacy because we can't help the people we're supporting without talking about you. And we can't really do that. We shouldn't be doing that in front of that person or in front of anyone else, frankly. And also there are times when we need to have staff meetings. So I think one of our thoughts was if it had been the upstairs space, for instance, there could have been an office off it, so we were still accessible, but there was still an element of privacy. So one of my thoughts about in here is that we have some sort of screening around us, not to make us inaccessible, could be glass,
Yeah.
but
It could be almost like one of these, half of these.
Probably even clearer, or certain panels frosted, certain panels clear. So you've still got some.
exactly,
view
but
of it.
just to be able to differentiate and observe some sort of confidentiality.
Yeah.
It's our
things.
semi-private spaces that we're talking about,
Yeah.
rather than the fully private,
Yeah.
big walls. Because
Yeah.
otherwise, I know what students are like. Being one myself, is like, oh, you might not want to see us.
Not
at the
welcome.
moment.
Yeah,
Yes.
It could. I mean, something as simple as the door being open.
Yes.
Just makes you know that you can come. Or you can wave at least and see if you're free.
I'll tell you a completely random idea we had, and we didn't do anything about it. But because one of the other challenges we have is that when we're there, we're very conscious that obviously we're visible and we're there to support the people that we're supporting. But because we're sitting at our computer doesn't necessarily mean that we're not supporting somebody. Does that make sense? So we might not be in a meeting. Like now, it's really evident I'm trying to help you.
Yeah.
If I'm sitting over there, it might look like I'm just shopping on eBay. And so we get a lot of people coming up, and we want to encourage that. At the same time, when you're visible the whole time and you're interrupted a lot, you can actually end up not doing the work of the remote support you're trying to do as well. So one of the things, I don't know whether you could consider it, was a mechanism of indicating who's on call.
Yeah.
So if there are 4 staff members sitting there, actually 3 of us could be doing something that's really vital to bring in money to continue the service. But 1 could be designated as drop-in on call, almost like a doctor's, green light.
Green light
Yeah.
or something. Put on your desk.
Exactly, I'm free. Do you know what I mean?
The Nando's.
Yeah.
Something along those lines. That would be useful too. Another thing we experimented with last month, and it was actually EPYs asked for it, probably as a result of what I've just said. They asked for a drop-in period of time. And we have tried it, but we end up... The time people need us doesn't necessarily coincide with the drop-in.
Yeah.
So it kind of didn't fit. But if there could be almost like an area that is that quick fix area, because then we could maybe send a member of staff into it.
So they just got to sit there and go, help!
Yeah, for designated periods of time. So maybe it could be a place where the staff member could work, but in being in that area, the clients knows we are completely interruptible here. Please come and ask me for help.
It needs to be interruptible, but also semi-private again, so they can
Exactly.
feel comfortable coming up and talking about things without everybody else going,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
So that's another challenge of the space.
nice and easy challenge to get.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
I tell you what is really popular, and you would need more of. You know that back corner where it's got the
Yes.
whiteboards?
Yeah.
People use that a lot, and I really like the fact that they use it a lot. They go in there, they scribble on the boards, they take photographs, they plan, they chat, and we've only got one of them.
And I suspect, for me anyway, that would be because it's semi-private.
Yes, because we tried to make it. Because when we came in, so what you won't know is that there were another 2 of those big pods,
Oh.
desk pods, where this is.
Uh-huh.
And we said, okay, if you're not going to put us in a space where we've got privacy as a team, you have to give us a space where we can be private, and that's why the BIC bought this. So in order to put this in, we had to take 2 desk pods out, so there were originally maybe 12 more desks in this footprint. What we then did as a team was try to zone off some areas, so we made the little kitchen area a little bit more, this is where you can eat or relax, and we tried to make that area, this is where you can go and have little more private conflab sort of thing. But I would like, I keep calling it the messy zone, something where it's big tables, different flooring, so it's easy to clean, some screens around it, so that
Messy types like that.
yeah, messy types like Natalie, yeah. Yeah, that sort of thing. And we would need help to know what is the bare minimum that could go in there to make it user friendly to the maximum number of people. Because there's no point in me asking just one type of student, just because they're a creative. We could end up with something ideally designed for textile students and useless for photography.
Yeah. And I don't think it can ever be 100% perfect, even in the zoned areas. It can't be 100% perfect for creatives in general, because everyone's got their own, way of working or their own personal favourites. So it's just, and I think if it does go too far that way, then you just end up, you lose the business side of it. So even though I wasn't always here to work on things, I knew that when I was here I'd be working on things that I would do on the computer, so it did make me do that, whereas I might have just decided to just go and paint something instead. So it is good that there is still that balance, and you have different moods as well, so sometimes you feel like just doing the computer stuff, and sometimes you just want to do this, so I think it'll be nice to see a balance anyway.
Could I give you some feedback on these pods themselves?
Yes, please.
So I find the lighting quite harsh when I'm in here. You can change it, but it's a bit embarrassing because it feels like I go from like this setting, which is okay with somebody, especially with somebody new.
Yeah.
If I press it and reduce it, I'm suddenly in a candlelit dinner for 2. So if you press it down a notch,
Which one?
so the next button, that one.
Think.
Yeah.
Oh.
Hello.
It's just a bit much, and then we can go down another.
What is that?
Presenting, so you've got...
So you can see. So I just find the full light, which I feel like we have to have, the top one is glary. Also, the fan is also set to come on automatically to 2. I always turn it to 1 because it's actually
Too noisy.
It's too noisy. When the pods arrived, they were completely open. Yeah, that's even better. When the pods arrived, they were completely clear. We actually had this put on it in an effort to, because people felt like they were in a goldfish bowl.
Yeah.
But in doing that, we've lost a bit of the natural lighting. So I don't know if there's a way. Random. With your nature theme, in my head, I was like, could it be almost like leaves or trees?
Like a nice pattern.
Something which would be less.
So you can see through bits of it, but not
all.
So leaves would be quite nice for that sort of thing. So you've got the gaps between.
Yeah. And
Well,
also then you feel partially outside.
I sent that design for the mountain in Belgium, which is a development that they did on biophilic design grounds. But part of it was one big development of apartments, and underneath was a parking, which made up this mountain shape.
Okay.
But for the outside of it, because they wanted it to be naturally ventilated, they had lots of holes cut out, and they found with those holes cut out, it could make a picture.
Ah.
And it's the same sort of idea. You could actually make a picture. You
Yeah,
could even
yeah.
have, well, maybe not doyek, but you know,
Yeah.
those sorts of things. You could actually have bits cut out of it, or leaves.
I mean,
You could even have pictures
yeah.
put into it, whatever you wanted,
To be fair,
with the transfer, with the surface pattern design you put.
yeah. To be fair, we maybe could have looked more carefully at that, but we just needed something to make it.
Quickly, yeah.
Yeah, and so
Even having strips
on
cut
reflection,
out,
we would have chosen something different.
Yeah.
even having strips of that cut out would make it. So
Yes.
little bands that you
Yeah.
can see through without it being
Exactly.
obvious,
So
yeah.
something along those sorts of lines.
But with time to design it, I think the idea of nature and leaves or whatever, something gives a pattern would be
Yeah.
more pleasant than just strips. Because
Yeah.
then it's going too businessy.
Yeah. Another thing that we do it to a certain extent, but I think we could do it better. Is I'd quite like an Hood Enterprise alumni wall.
Yes.
So on the back wall, this takes away from the storage because we need the wall space to have cupboards for have storage. But I got the idea from. Do you know Richard Reed of Innocent Smoothies?
Yes.
Yeah. So basically, in Fruit Towers, they actually encourage people. You know, when people say, "Oh, we're leaving," they're not sort of like, "Oh, you know what?" They actually encourage them because it's like, well, actually, you've learnt lots here, and now, yeah, go on and take some of that learning somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
But what they do is they have a photograph of everybody that's contributed on the wall, and it feels kind of like that. Everybody that's been through these doors has contributed to what it now looks like.
Yeah.
And it seems a shame that we can't have visual recognition of that. I'm being slightly selfish about it as well because one of the challenges we have is when the Vice Chancellor comes through and sees empty desks, he says, well, you know, why are we having this facility? It's like, well, we've got over 100 people on our books. They're self-employed. They're not like you. They don't have to be at their desk. That's the point. So to have a...
Let's cover that for a minute.
Do you know what? I'm past caring. I tell it to his face. I think it'd be great to have a visual representation. I mean, to the point where actually we have to take some of the old ones down to get the more recent ones up. We've started to do something because we've designed an enterprise directory. And also, have you had invitations to
Yeah.
alumni?
I've put it in
Yes.
my diary now.
I think I should be on it. I
Yeah.
signed up.
I've
Right.
not signed up for it.
Yeah. So we're doing things around this, but I think that's important as well in terms of feeling that, you know, just because you're not necessarily having intensive support from us anymore, that you're not part of the community.
Mm-hmm.
So anything that could bring that sense of wider network and community would also be good.
And even just, you know, like your board over there saying, I'm willing to be involved in whatever, maybe not that much, but a photo of you, an email address if you're willing to be contacted,
Yeah.
and the area that you work
Yeah.
in. Because then if anybody's here and goes, I really need to know about computer engineering, they've done that.
Do you know what? That's a really good... I would just wonder, should we go and buy one of those... Well, they've suddenly become fashionable. They're kind of retro. One of those cameras that spits the photo out immediately.
Oh, Polaroid.
Yeah, Polaroids.
So that do you see what I mean? To take,
Yeah.
so it becomes personal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the message becomes personalised with a little
You have
photograph.
a little whiteboard so they can...
Yeah, with a number.
Yeah. Prison number underneath it.
I think that.
Sorry, I'm going off point here,
I
but
think the thing you just said about
But the community and
kind
the
of
connections is
yeah,
important.
having a link to what people do, like something that's just a quick, you know. So whether, like for me, whether it would be a, I don't know, paintbrush or something that shows that, like, there's a symbol for design in the, maybe it goes on the directory rather than in a real life thing, but something that people, if they're looking for something or if they're studying or whatever they're doing for their EPY at the moment, and then they instantly know, right, well, these are the past people who you can
Yeah.
look at or whatever.
okay, random. You know how random I am. This is probably cringeworthy. Could we have a tree on the wall, a painting of a tree?
Do you mean like on Harry Potter where they have the family tree?
Sort of, but something that we could actually. So there's the outline of a tree, and I'm thinking like, you know, like the thing about who do you think you are? You know, where there's tracing the past,
Yeah.
a tree, but on it we're able to amend some statistics around it. So art, design, and architecture, the 7 schools, and who's the numbers of people being through. Is that really
Yeah.
cringeworthy?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah. Yeah, Phil, it is.
I think it's good. I think I like the Polaroid thing as well. But I think that rather than just doing it, I think we should try and see if there's a cooler or slicker way of doing it that will incorporate it with everything else rather than having that
random.
And,
and then, I told you it was random.
But these are things that we can work with to work into. So you might not get exactly that.
No.
But something that still works.
Something that works in the theme.
Yeah.
I know. I'd have it ending up looking like a jumble sale. So I know that. But if I just chuck some ideas out at you and you come back with an amazing design.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Okay, so I've got the Hood alumni wall, or some way of showcasing, like evidencing people who have been before. I'll just put a way of connecting with them as well, I guess.
Yes. I think the thing is, it's about making it as real as possible.
Yeah.
And statistics don't make it real, but photographs and names do. And so that's why I quite like the idea of the photograph wall. And it'd have to be more than that eventually, because there'd be so many people that...
Yeah, that's what I mean about trying to think about how to do it and where to do it.
Yeah.
So that it's not something that's just, it'll work for a month or so and then...
And then it's no good, yeah.
I think if... what did I just thought of something then? I can't remember. Oh yeah, if the picture, if it's not a Polaroid, or you can do like fake Polaroids.
Yeah.
So people can send in a picture that they actually like, but if they had something that represented them, so like if it would be, Becca with one of her cushions, and you with the camera, so that you've got that.
That's nice. Yeah.
Straight away.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm just trying to think of, because with this sort of natural nature type theme as well.
We might not go so obvious with that.
No,
just because
like I say, it could just be the materials that the table's made out of.
Okay.
And how the space is to be in. It doesn't have to be, obviously, like I said, a tree in the middle of the room.
Yeah.
It's more, the focus is more about well-being in the workplace and trying to make you as productive as possible and as comfortable or what. So it might be that
standing up desks.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, or something that reminds you to go and walk around a bit, or or an area that makes you collaborate with people more.
Sound. Yeah. I've always struggled with this. We have the this TV on Sky News sort of thing, and now sometimes we have the sound on, because you get apps like Coffeetivity. Do you know Coffeetivity?
Yeah.
Because actually people don't like working in silence. Yeah. But when you've got an office which has got a lot of different people in a lot of different moods, what do we do about sound?
Yeah.
I don't know if there's anything you can suggest or research that might help.
Have you have you been to Manchester Art Gallery?
I have, not recently.
Under the domes?
Yes.
Where they control the sound to one area. Because if we're looking at zones anyway, maybe not like that, but little speakers with that sort of directionality to the speakers.
Yeah.
And there are speakers in here
and
already.
Controls that people can go and turn the things off every so often if they need to.
Yes.
It gets so annoying when you're in a space and there's a bit of music piping and you don't like it.
Exactly. And people's tolerance level of noise is different. I mean, for instance, we wouldn't have it, but if I hear the merest hint of rap, I become quite violent. So there are these triggers, aren't there, with different people? And you don't want to have something that's actually intruding on someone. But at the same time, if it's helping someone else. Yeah. So sound, I think, is an important area.
It's interesting because...
Zoned sound.
Yeah, that could work.
Yeah.
And it's because, it might be something to do with what it is that you're doing or what area you're working. Because for me, when we are in the MA suite, we sometimes put the radio app on because it's easier to work with that. Even if it's not loud, it's just that slight distraction, or or even it just gets you talking. Or
well, exactly, because then even turning the page in your notebook becomes like a massive focus of attention, doesn't it? Because it's the only sound in the room, and that it is that kind of ticking clock thing, which is really excruciating.
Either, even if you do have a question, if you're not with somebody that you're comfortable speaking to, you don't really want to get up and go and ask or say something. Yeah.
Sorry, another thing which I think we need is we need a pitching pod. We need somewhere where there's a camera set up where 1, 2, probably a maximum of 3 people can go and just practice pitching, delivering something, and can watch it back.
I was going to say a small camera might be best, but thinking about it, having an obvious camera would get people more used to it. Because I know when I brought that big camera in, everybody's like,
Yeah.
and it's like the one I've got there is even bigger, and people see that, they're like,
Yeah.
oh God. Even if you've got like a shell of a body and just put a GoPro in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I just thought as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, but something where, so just an area that's set up with the correct, because they can't all be
can see
multimedia
that
consultants,
Yeah.
but and actually we're not talking about making a blockbuster film, just to be able to go and stand there and practice delivering an elevator pitch and seeing it back, because if you can watch yourself back, it's hideous, but you can learn so much.
Oh, definitely, yeah. And I use that sometimes when I was teaching martial arts. I'd film people on my phone or whatever, then you just watch it back afterwards, go, and actually you can see what you did here.
Yeah.
And you just need to change this a bit, and you can point it out to them
Yes.
rather than going, do you remember when you did? Oh, no.
Yeah, exactly. Because you
Out of the
can't.
zone, yeah.
You can't. Especially good. That's really good for speed, because it's very hard to explain to someone how fast or slowly they're speaking, and also the importance of silence, because a break in speech feels like 2 hours, and it's actually 2 seconds or whatever. So
But that being quiet for the moment is
Yeah.
really important.
Yeah.
So that could even be done with these pods even. If you wanted something temporary, if you got a GoPro mounted up there,
Yeah.
because there'd be room for it,
Yeah.
and you just press the button to start with, you'd have to take the SD card out because it wouldn't be wired in, and just go and put it onto one of the computers and watch it afterwards.
I think we might end up
As a
having
temporary
to,
solution.
yeah, even in the long run, depending on what the space is and how it all works out, but we might end up having areas that double up. So, like if it was one of the pods for meetings, it might double up as the pitching space. It
yes,
might have things
absolutely. I think the key word for me would be flexibility.
Yeah.
If there's anything that can be done to allow furniture to be moved easily, split into smaller units,
Yeah.
Screens that could be drawn around so that...
Almost like the Japanese ones.
Yeah, something that would change. Fundamentally, we want open plan and we want peer networking and peer learning to occur. But we also have to recognise that sometimes those individual companies need to be private, and we need a way of screening those private discussions off.
Yeah.
Even almost not their curtains.
Yeah, I do.
You know, like on a hospital ward where you just put it down briefly. and put it back. Not like that,
But something that functions in that way that you can move forward and out.
Yeah. Can I just see where I'm next so that I know
of course.
where...
If you need
You
to
have
go.
something at 11.
Do I?
Yeah.
What a lovely secretary you are.
I do. I'm supposed to be in level 10 in 12 minutes. I'm just going to ask Nicola to ring somebody and tell them I'll be late. It's
Okay.
fine.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Okay.
Don't forget me.
We can go.
Is this any use?
Yeah.
Yeah,
lots.
lots.
Oh, right,
Yeah.
okay.
We'll say this is really good.
Anything else?
Some idea, we're pretty much ignoring budgets, but to have in the back of our minds some idea as to what sort of funds you might be able to raise and spend on this sort of thing, just to show that we've done the
Penny.
research, might be useful, even if that's talking to Paul later on.
Well, the weird thing with the setup here is that we're a tenant.
Mm-hmm.
So we actually pay rent to the 3M BIC, because the 3M BIC is a wholly owned subsidiary, so it's a separate entity, it's a business.
Yeah.
So you've got a situation where in this room you have to consider not only the budget to make the changes, but the budget to put it back.
Yeah.
Oh, so everything that's here now, how much of it is from 3M, or is it all from the university? So then do we...
So everything in here, including this pod, belongs to 3M BIC.
Oh, really?
Everything.
Oh.
So we came in...
So 3M bought... Wow.
So the Buckley Innovation Centre furnished the whole shebang. When we said, actually, we need this office space, they said, well, OK, we'll buy an orange box, but that's ours if you ever go, sort of
Right.
thing.
Maybe there's somewhere else that they want to put it. if we don't, if we were to replace it with something.
Oh, yes, absolutely. It's a resource, and they're expensive. It's a valuable resource, so it's not going to finish up in a skip.
Yeah.
But what I'm meaning is, in terms of your budget, the enterprise team itself is an element of a research and enterprise directorate service. So research and enterprise is the service that we sit under.
Yeah.
But we have no budget to redecorate this place.
Mm-hmm.
But even if we found that fund, we would have to persuade the 3MBIC management that not only could we make these transformations, but if we ever left, we would put it back as it was, because that's the agreement of tenancy, basically.
Would it be possible, rather than agreeing to put it back, if they agree to what the changes are, that we wouldn't have to put it back? So as it is at the moment, is it in there that you have to put it back? Because sometimes you can have it so that you don't, like if you're making it the space better.
Right. Yeah. So as I understand it at the moment, if I want to, if we want to drill into the walls, for instance, we tell them, or we ask them, and the situation is that if they wanted those things taken down, if we left, we'd have to make it good. So the university is a strange place. So if we get work done, there's a cost to that. So to just come and put up a notice board, there's a cost, because that's an estates person coming. So there's into schools and service charges. So we would pay for that to happen. So what I'm saying is, yes, you could discuss with the 3M Buckley Innovation Centre management team what the implications are. But ultimately, if you changed it so that it enhanced this room for the current users, their argument would be it wouldn't for the next, because you're taking it away from something that's quite generic and you're making it much more specific. Now that's fine as long as that's our space and we remain the tenant. The problem we have is if we then say, well, actually, for instance, students and graduates no longer use this space. It's external business. Do they want trees on the wall? Or whatever it is.
I think we could combat that by keeping it so that the argument is that it is still generic and it's actually more relevant, because if we back up with the research of how because we've got information about how workspaces are evolving, and it's becoming more in line with the different zoned areas. So we could back it up with that argument. So we're actually
I think that would be a better proposition than sort of saying this transformation will cost blah blah blah, because you could then need to double that, presumably, to then return it to how it was.
But basically, for our project, it's just showing that we've thought of these things.
Yes.
It's important.
Yes, exactly. So, I mean, whether you could get some costs of refurbishments at a generic level and make a guided estimate.
Probably talking to Orange Box would be the best one, because they do that.
Yeah, but also they've just upstairs they've just transformed that space, because that's becoming a business engagement centre. Has become a business engagement centre. So it's had quite a substantial makeover.
Who's that for?
So the idea of upstairs is that external businesses have a place to work in the 3M Buckley Innovation Centre, so that largely professional services, so that the tenants and external businesses can come in and meet with them centrally. So imagine if you're an IP specialist, but your main office is in Leeds, you might send somebody to work in here half a day a week, because there could be clients down the corridor.
Right. And how are they charging for that, presumably?
Well, it comes as part of, because 3M, you can have a network membership. But the reason I'm telling you is that because that has been made over,
we can find out.
I wonder if there's some.
Can we go have a look?
Yeah, you can go. Oh, can you get in? I tell you what, to go and have a look. Go to the stairs halfway. Go up. And walk along, because that door will be open.
Okay.
If you go that way, it might be locked and your swipe card won't let you through.
We'll have a look afterwards and get some pictures. And, use that.
Yeah.
And then if we can talk to, is it the 3M management team that we need to speak to about what that costs, if they're willing to share?
Yes, if they would be willing to share
Yes.
that. It might be worth, if anyone upstairs challenges you, just
We'll
say...
say Phil sent us.
Yeah, exactly. Say, I sent you, because you're just looking at how open plan spaces look different. Let's not go no further than that at the moment.
I think that's everything we need to do. And I'm assuming it's a yes anyway, but are you okay coming and talking to the current students?
Yes,
who
of
are
course,
using it?
of course, because they've got the answers to the questions
Yeah.
better than I have. Yes.
Because we'd like to get your perspective, but we need to know.
Oh
what
yeah,
they think.
exactly.
Probably gotta talk to the
You need
schools
to
as well.
you need to talk to them, and what I would say is make sure you're getting a diverse range of your students. And if you're not, it's probably just because they're not in here, not because we're not helping them. So
Yeah.
come and ask us, and we could maybe get you some
I
connections.
think we might end up having to do some, as well as just dropping in, maybe doing something where we invite people to come and then also sending something out via email so that it hits everybody, whether
Yeah.
they reply or not. But we'll have to try and think of an
Yeah.
incentive. We'll leave cupcakes for everybody who, but
I'll
there'll
be
be a
there.
list.
Yeah,
See?